Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. Next Gen ATP Finals over and out. Stefanos Tsitsipas, the champion over there. World Tour Finals underway. Roger Federer losing. But this video, I want to focus on more so last week. I'll quickly preview this week, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about it next Monday. That is the World Tour Finals. This video, as I said, it's going to be a lot of comment response. I asked for your comments on the last one, and I was super happy with how many people had some really fun comments, cool questions, etc., etc. So I'm going to get to all of those shortly. But first, I kind of want to run through these next-gen guys real quick, kind of give my impressions on what I saw last week, since it's an opportunity to see them side by side. With the exception of a few who, I guess Shapovalov's the only guy who said, I don't want to play it, I believe. And I'll talk about him a little bit later because someone asks about him. I'll also touch on Sasha Zverev, who wasn't in it. But for now, I kind of want to just go through these guys. And I'll start with the champion, Stefanos Tsitsipas. I think the best way to do this is I just want to say what I think. I'm going to give one thing that they do really well and makes them forces to be reckoned with, and one thing that they need to improve. A general kind of statement on Tsitsipas's week. It seemed like in the beginning he wasn't fully engaged, and then he got really engaged at the end, and played a incredible match against Alex De Minaur, who had an awesome week and played a pretty good final against Tsitsipas, and Tsitsipas was just too good. Indoor hardcourt, dominating with his forehand, coming up with a lot of big serves with the no-ad scoring in that match, which I really think swung it. There were a few deuce points on Tsitsipas's serve in the third set. I don't know if there was in the fourth set possibly as well. And Tsitsipas on a couple of occasions was able to save, or not save, I guess, because it's not, or I guess it is a break point. So save a break point with those big serves. I'll talk about the rules coming up in the comment response as well. Some of the experimental rules in the Next Gen Final. For Tsitsipas, the strength, this is a guy who we've talked about a lot on the channel, so this is nothing new, but it's the forehand, and it's an impeccable weapon. I think it's a little bit more precise than Juan Martín del Potro's forehand. He gets a little bit less MPH on it, and a little bit less. It's not as dangerous from way back behind the baseline because he doesn't have the same sort of pop. But inside the court and on top of the baseline, I think his forehand, if it's not as good as Juan Martín del Potro's forehand right now, it's really getting there. So I think it's at the Federer, I think it will be, if it's not there yet. It might not be, but I think it will be at the level where, Federer's forehand, Nadal's forehand, and del Potro's forehand is at, where the biggest forehands in the sport are generally some of the most important weapons in the sport. That's just kind of how it goes in modern tennis. That shot's so important. So that's my strength for Tsitsipas. Weakness, it's the backhand, and I have talked in recent weeks about how I think the backhand's improved. I think it looks better. I think it's getting better and better, which is a really good thing. It's not bad, but if you're looking at, I don't think it's an elite top 10 ATP Tour level shot. I think it's below that. I think it's, Tsitsipas's backhand is pretty pedestrian in my opinion in the scope of the top of the game, of the top of the men's game. I'm not really saying this very well, but I think you get the picture here. I think it leaves a little bit to be desired. Tsitsipas's backhand, he just needs to build up the strength a little bit. That's the number one thing. I think he needs to build up the strength, and that's coming. He's super young still, obviously. Moving on to De Minaur. His strength is his speed. I think he's the fastest guy in tennis right now. I don't think Gael Monfils is faster than him. I don't think Nadal is faster than him. Djokovic is maybe as fast as him. Maybe. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Watching this guy move around the court, it's something different. It's another level. I think it's a notch above everyone else. De Minaur is, in my opinion, the fastest guy on tour. I don't know if you guys would agree with that. I think it's not just the speed; it's also the quickness. He goes from 0 to 100 in one step. And that's what makes him so quick around the court. And that's something that it doesn't really matter. Like, there will never be a 6'5" guy who has that kind of quickness. I don't think, at least. I don't think it'll ever happen. So that's one aspect of the game where De Minaur, who's an undersized player, I think he's about 5'11". If you are undersized, where do you make up for it? Well, he makes up for it in his quickness. And that's something that, if you're 6'5", you will never have Alex De Minaur quickness. And what I really like about him is something I've complained about with Hyun Chung, with Chung. And Chung doesn't trust his legs enough. He's a great athlete, and he's very quick, but he doesn't play with enough margin. He doesn't have the kind of patterns that would suggest that he's comfortable defending. Where De Minaur, I think, really trusts his legs, and as a result, he's able to play safer tennis, especially defensively, where he kind of knows, well, I don't really need to worry about kind of giving myself margin on this shot, because I know that I'll be able to catch up to the next ball using my speed. His weakness, forehand consistency. His forehand's so interesting technically. It kind of fascinates me. It very much reminds me of a whip. He keeps his wrist, actually his whole arm, very, very loose. But it's not a compact swing. It's pretty long. It's pretty unconventional. And normally I think it's a good shot. He hits it pretty flat, but I think it's a good shot. What I saw is just kind of, in high-pressure situations against Tsitsipas, that was the shot that lost him the match. In the third set tiebreak, in the fourth set tiebreak, that was the shot that lost him the match. All right, I'll start going a little bit quicker. Tiafoe, his strength, to me, is his strength, his explosiveness. He's a really strong guy. He's got strong legs, and as a result, he can really kind of do, in a lot of ways, what a guy like Stan Wawrinka is able to do from the back of the court, and that is, he's able to hit his forehand heavy enough, his backhand a little bit less so. He's able to hit his forehand, though, very heavy from the back, and it gives him some more time to set up. I just think physically he is on par with most players. The weakness, and this has been frustrating me because, as an American, I want Tiafoe to do well, because I want him to bring kind of the popularity to the sport that I know a top American in men's tennis can do, and also a player of color, an American of color, at the top of the game. That could open up a lot of new doors. Young players want to see people who look like them when they turn on their television. That's the kind of thing that inspires people. So, I'm always pulling for Tiafoe. I haven't been seeing the fight that I want to see. And that's very frustrating to me. If you look at all the players I root hard for and I enjoy, and we're going to get to one of these guys coming up, these are all guys who I think give 110% in a way that I feel is admirable. That's why David Ferrer was my favorite player. Maybe it's was now. I don't know. It's very sad. But I don't see that from Tiafoe. I want to see more fight. And to me, that's the weakness. Taylor Fritz, the strength is roundedness. Forehand, backhand, I think they're pretty even. The serve, it's pretty good. The movement, it's all right. But I think that's where the weakness is. The speed is where I think Fritz kind of lacks, the elite athleticism. As a ball striker, I think he's very polished, and I don't think he misses a lot of easy shots. So that's good by Fritz. Rublev, strength is the power off both wings. I mean, he can punish the tennis ball. And the weakness is the defense all around. And it's not necessarily his legs. It's almost like Rublev doesn't know how to defend with his racket. He just doesn't have that, he needs to train high, loopy, cross-court defensive tennis. That's what I feel like he needs to train. He doesn't have defensive, especially when it comes to hitting topspin on defense. I mean, anyone can hit a squash shot, but what I don't see from Rublev is I don't see him defending with his forehand grip or with his natural backhand grip. I see him only defending with continental. So that's something that he can work on. Andrey Minaur, strength, the fight. He idolizes Rafa Nadal. He went to Rafa Nadal's academy, and that's who he reminds me of. The mental game is incredible. I love it. I swear to God, I'm not Spanish, but I can already tell this guy's going to be one of my favorites because of the way he plays. It's the play style that I just find very likable and rootable. That's all. Weakness is the backhand. He leaves it in the middle of the court. It's the kind of backhand where it's just he's waiting for a forehand, which is sometimes okay. It's more okay if you have a massive forehand, which Minaur doesn't. His slice backhand is good, so he uses that a lot. So I should specify, the topspin backhand, he can't hurt you with it, and more importantly, he'll leave it in the middle of the court a lot. That's the weakness. The next two guys, I almost don't want to comment on. Hubert Hurkacz. Someone actually commented asking me to talk about him. Someone texted me, Daniel Scotti actually texted me and said, dude, this guy is exactly like Berdych. And I tend to agree. Technically off the ground, it looks like that. Body type, it's very similar to that. So I do need to see more, though. I don't really want to comment. And then I believe it's Liam Caruana, or yeah, something like that. I didn't actually get to see him last week, to be honest. So him I didn't get to see. All right, how long did I just go? 12 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up. We're going to move to the comments. I never put up the... Damn, I just accidentally closed my PowerPoint. So let me pull this back up. It's loading. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the comments, and then I'm going to come back to some other things. One thing that I saw in a comment, and I couldn't find the comment, was someone was wondering, I guess I was talking about Sasha Zverev struggling, and they were saying, Gill, help me, I don't understand what he does well. And I want to make this point, because I talk about, and we watch and we discuss tennis at the very, 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 very highest level. But one thing remains true. From 8-unders, from quick start tennis, junior tennis, to college tennis, high school tennis, amateur tennis, etc., semi-pro, everything. Generally, the player who misses less wins the match. So, because we talk so much about, top 30 players facing off, a lot of the time the narrative is elsewhere. And we're not really talking about, okay, this guy missed less and that's why he won. But in reality, the player who makes less errors usually wins. And for Sasha Zverev, the guy doesn't miss a lot. And that's what makes him really good. If you look at like Andy Murray, and this is a quality that's just often simply unappreciated. A lot of people in message boards and comments say, either, oh, Andy Murray's a pusher, Andy Murray is boring. Andy Murray doesn't miss. Novak Djokovic doesn't really miss. So, this is obviously just, that's paramount in tennis. So when Zverev's on, when Zverev's confident, and I want to qualify this, he doesn't miss, but here's the thing also. Any player, any professional tennis player can just not miss. But here's why it's not pushing. It's not pushing if you don't decelerate your racket. It's not pushing if you're ripping the ball. And Sasha can rip the ball and not miss. And that's why he's good. If you look at a guy like Adrian Mannarino, Mannarino doesn't miss. Why isn't Mannarino a top 10 player? Mannarino, he decelerates. He doesn't rip the ball. He is the closest thing on tour to a pusher. And it's not really a derogatory term. I mean, if you're a professional tennis player, everyone can kick rocks. You know, you're not a pusher really. But Mannarino's the closest thing there is on tour to a pusher. So when I say this guy doesn't miss, I don't mean he has the ability to get the ball in the court. Everyone has that ability. Sasha he's a really clean hitter. And that's something you'll notice if you watch him. If you watch the top guys practice and play courtside, you'll notice there's a difference between how clean they hit the ball on a consistent basis and how clean other guys hit the ball on a consistent basis. He's got an above average serve. He can move at 6'6". He packs a really good punch. And the backhand is a weapon. But because the forehand isn't a weapon, because the serve isn't huge, because the movement isn't great, because the defense isn't great, because the offense isn't great, a lot of people say, what's so good about Sasha Zverev? He doesn't miss. That's what's so good about Sasha Zverev. There's our thumbnail. Getting to it a little late. Stefanos Tsitsipas, Next Gen Trophy. I really like that trophy. It's sleek. It's sleek. Let's go to the first comment. LSB, Anderson is almost as tall, same age, and played the same match at Wimbledon semifinal and played the mega match versus Federer. Why do you keep making this excuse for Isner when Candy, which is a pretty funny nickname, who then played the final too, has continued to go pretty far subsequently? Doesn't make sense, and it was way back in July. Come on. Much more likely he has been distracted by impending and then fatherhood. Okay. So first of all, the first thing I'll say is Kevin Anderson deserves massive props for his conditioning because he has borderline superhuman conditioning, and I think what he did at Wimbledon is impeccable. What he did after Wimbledon is impeccable. There's a major difference, though, and I have a few points here. There's a major difference between Anderson and Isner, and that is Isner, after Wimbledon, has his home tournament in... He gets 1 week off, then has to play Atlanta, his home tournament. No one's forcing him to play. So when I say has to, I mean has that kind of extra pull factor. So Atlanta, right? And it's quasi home tournament. He went to the University of Georgia, so he's got a lot of kind of family and fans there. So he doesn't really get to rest. Anderson, and then basically Isner plays Washington, D.C. He shouldn't have played Washington, D.C. That was stupid. But here's the thing. Isner loves playing in the United States. This is Isner's favorite time of year. So Isner then plays D.C. And then I believe he pulled out of Canada from pure exhaustion. Then he didn't have much in the tank in Cincinnati. And then I think by the U.S. Open he was recovered. So I think one of the major differences between Anderson and Isner is Isner played 2 tournaments after Wimbledon when Kevin Anderson kicked back and relaxed for a month. And right now, as we speak, I'm just double checking to make sure. Yeah, Anderson did not play the City Open. I just wanted to make sure. I was pretty sure he didn't. But yeah, Anderson made the semifinals of Rogers Cup. Then he went to the round of 16, lost to Goffin in Cincinnati. No shame in that. So you're right. Anderson came back, had good results, and had a good result in the U.S. Open, making the round of 16, losing to Dominic Thiem, who was playing great tennis. And he did lose in 3 sets. That's not great. But, I think Anderson deserves props. I don't think the circumstance is the same. I don't really think it's comparable. And then the second thing is about impending fatherhood. If you watch the matches, Isner was gassed. So if you watch the match, and I don't know if anyone cares. I don't know why we're hearkening back to the summer. This comment had a lot of likes. So that's why I thought I should definitely respond to it. But the fatherhood thing, like, the guy would be on the court and his serve would be down to 120. So I don't think John Isner is serving 120 miles per hour because of impending fatherhood. I think he's serving 120 miles per hour because he's tired. All right. My question for you, Gill. I understand you stay very professional and impartial with your views and tend not to make polarizing or controversial calls regarding this topic. This is true. 1. Do you think Djokovic will catch Federer in slams? Where will Nadal finish? And 2, who has reached the highest level of tennis ever? If you'd rather answer a question about the tour currently, who do you think will be the next non-Big Four member to win a slam? Khachanov? Also thoughts on Kyrgios. Cheers. Thank you for that, Johnny. All right. So you're trying to get me in trouble. I understand that. And yeah, the reason I shy away from this is because, first of all, yeah, there's a lot of ugly stuff that comes from talking about this. And then the second thing is, there's a lot of variables that I simply think is out of the realm of prediction, such as health. I mean, it really does come down to longevity, you know? I mean, Novak Djokovic's body could theoretically fail on him in 2 years. It could. I mean, we have seen bodies at the age of 30 do that. This would not be crazy. We have seen this at 28 through 33, and then we've seen someone like Federer, who is able to preserve his body, and with the exception of some issues with season-long endurance, which I'm going to get to a little bit later, the guy is still in good shape. What's going to happen with Novak? Who knows? And that's why I don't really like this. My gut is that it's not really going to be about Novak. And I think it might be about some others. But I have a feeling that Federer probably has one more in him. That's just kind of my feeling. I think that Rafa still has French Opens, at the very least, that he will be taking from Novak Djokovic, because only one guy can win. I think Rafa is still in a position where, if you're going to ask me who's going to win the French Open next year, I'm still feeling pretty confident that the answer is Rafa. I mean, let's not forget, when Rafa was healthy this year, he was incredible. Just didn't have a great year in terms of health. Novak showed some fragility, but is back to the top. So I think any tournament on hard court, I think Wimbledon, I think, Djokovic kind of comes in as the favorite for probably the next 2 years. It's going to be very close. And I'm not going to make a, I'm not going to really, make a, what do you call it? I can't find the word that I'm looking for. But I think it's going to be very close. Who has reached the highest level of tennis ever? Tough. Very tough. I think it's 2011 Novak Djokovic in the beginning of the season. This is a guy who would literally just, and I think the reason is, I don't think the way he was playing is sustainable. I don't think you can do it for more than 5 months. But this is a dude who refused to miss and would literally stay in a rally all day. I mean, he got his cardio to an incredible level, his consistency to an incredible level, his serve was at a high level, his return, all-time great. I mean, I think Novak, just at the beginning of that season, was pretty much impenetrable. Now, I would qualify that with, I don't think it's possible for Novak to continue to play that game. So I think Djokovic had his breakthrough. He was able to play that way for a little while, and it's impossible to sustain. You can't play like that. It's too hard on the body. It's too hard on the mind, and I think he was able to kind of just peak there. Federer, when he's redlining, is probably produces the best level of tennis, though, when he's redlining. Because with the serve, I think he puts you in a position where sometimes you just can't do anything. And so I think in a vacuum, in a single set, in a single game, I think Federer can produce the highest level of tennis. I think Djokovic did produce the highest level of tennis. But then again, what surface are we on? If we're on clay, well, Rafa's produced the highest level of tennis. Next non-Big Four member to win a slam. I actually think it's between Tsitsipas and Khachanov. And I make that claim based on potential and rate of improvement. I think rate of improvement is a very important thing to watch. Because it's all about extrapolation. It's all about projection. And how big your game is. And can you really catch fire? I feel like what I'm kind of seeing in my head would be Khachanov at Wimbledon. If he's able to continue to improve rapidly and progress into next year, I would want to see Khachanov Wimbledon. I don't know. That's just kind of my gut. Australian Open, I think it's very tough. It'd be very tough on a hard court for any of the next geners. Clay, very difficult. But grass, that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I think Tsitsipas or Khachanov. Kyrgios we'll get to later, and I gotta start going quicker. Could you talk a little bit about Denis Shapovalov and his potential, please? Many people say he's overrated. Then again, he's only 19. Let's start there. Shapovalov he's a guy, he goes hot and cold. He's so fun to watch, and he's a shot maker. Shot maker of all shot makers. And has a huge one-hander. He's got a huge forehand. Serve's got to be better, though, if you're going to play that brand of tennis. And if your serve is not, if you can't make first serves and you're going to be an aggressive first-strike tennis player, you have no chance. So that one shot is going to hold him back. And that's all he needs to improve. I don't think he's overrated. I do think, he needs to develop a little bit more consistency. But the potential is certainly there. No doubt. He's a very unique player, so it's almost hard to compare him to other guys, which makes it a little bit difficult for me to kind of think about his potential. Secondly, could you discuss what makes you pick Felix Auger-Aliassime as one of the most talented next-geners? I haven't seen much of him. Aliassime has the potential for the best combination of defense and offense. I've seen him do things kind of wizardly things defensively, and he's got a really big forehand offensively, and he's got a great service motion, and that's something that, quite frankly, I haven't seen from anyone. Zverev, like I said, we've talked about, kind of a tweener, doesn't have a huge game offensively or defensively. De Minaur, defense. Tsitsipas, offense. Khachanov, I do like how he can do a little bit of both. And all these guys, or a lot of these guys to a certain extent, can do both. But Khachanov, a little bit more geared towards offense. Aliassime, kind of the modern mold of kind of the, I believe, like 6'3" athletic range, where he's strong enough to be great offensively, but fast enough to be great defensively. It's a very special mold. He has so much potential. Gill, how prestigious of a title do you consider the ATP Tour Finals to be? I consider it more prestigious to get there. I think it's a huge deal for these guys to go to London and to rub shoulders, because when you're in a locker room and only the top 8 are in that locker room, that can be kind of a pinch me moment. That can be like okay, I'm elite. And I think that's how you feel when you get there. Winning it is awesome. I think it's a big ego boost, but I think getting there is a little bit more important. This is a long one, this comment, but it'll give me a chance to talk about all the rules. The next gen format. First, this is so small. Is this hard for you guys to read? Because it's hard for me to read. Okay, the let serve seems to be an unnecessary attempt to speed up the game. This is just unfair. Let's leave it at that. I don't like the let serve. One thing I will say is, I don't know, does the luck even out? Because we know sometimes it's an ace, but oh, it's a let. But it would have been an ace. And then sometimes it pops up, and now it's a sitter return, easy winner. So does the luck even out? I don't know. I'd have to, someone would need to track that. I guess I feel like lets are pretty rare. And because I feel like lets are rare, who cares? And I really think that, I always say, tennis, there's no luck in tennis, only net cords. I say net cords is the only luck in tennis. And I love that. I love that about tennis. That's so unique because there's a lot of luck in other sports. I mean, come on. There is so much luck. There's very little luck in tennis. And I like that. And I'd like to keep it that way. So net cord is a no. Playing lets is a no for me. Secondly, the Tsitsipas getting a trophy, I don't know. I didn't see that. Thirdly, the shot clock seems to be applied harshly. I don't really want to talk about the shot clock. I think that's fine. Let's see. And then this says, lastly, purely from an aesthetic point of view, I just can't get used to the lack of linesmen. I am in favor of technology in the Hawkeye, and eventually everybody will adjust to that, but now the court looks kind of empty. Who else got the impression? The first thing I saw was like, oh wow, the court does look empty. But I had the opposite reaction. I'm like, ooh, this looks really clean. I like this. But I do want to make one point. I think it's a very important point. These lines judges, I mean, these people are employed. If you phased out lines judges, you'd be taking people's jobs away from them. That's something to think about. That's something to consider. And I know, I wonder if other tennis employees would go on strike. I don't know if there's some kind of union, but it would make sense to me. Let's say the ATP said, okay, no more linesmen, or the WTA. What if all the chair umpires, what if they all said, okay, we're not working, we're not okay with this, so we're not going to work, and then the ATP has no leverage, they have to not pass that rule, or they need to bring back lines people, because it's a slippery slope for employees of the sport, and it would be a slippery slope, honestly, for chair umpires, for example, I would say. So it's just one thing to think about, just an added layer. In terms of the functionality, I really liked it. I really did. But I'm also okay if we want to keep the human element. I'm okay either way, but honestly, I think it was really nice. I think it was really good. I really liked the Hawkeye. A couple things. The sets going to 4, best of 5. Too many tie breaks is my big complaint with that. I don't think tennis matches should be tie-break competitions, and I feel like that's what a lot of these matches were. I liked the pacing of it. I liked that it was, okay, this set's done, this set's done, this set's done, this set's done, but it was just like way too many tie breaks, and I think that I just feel like I really like the authenticity of, okay, I'm trying to hold serve. We alternate service games. We try to break each other. I mean, that's tennis to me. I mean, that's so ingrained in this sport. Tie breaks take that away, and I don't really like that. I think tie breaks are kind of a last resort for, to decide who's going to win the set. They shouldn't be the norm. It shouldn't be, okay, a normal set goes to a tie break. I don't like that. And then lastly, the coaching. I have super mixed feelings on this, and it's so hard for me. I really don't. I'm really having trouble formulating an opinion because I love the product. I love what I get as a consumer. I also like the individuality of tennis. So what I'm going to say is I haven't decided on that. Better, though, than the WTA system in between sets where the coaches go on court. The headset was really good. I liked that. Last one. Has Tiafoe topped out, or do we think he can get much better? He's obviously very, very quick and has a big serve. Yep. Quick, strong, explosive, good athlete, good talent. I want to see him fight harder. I hate that that's his flaw because that's, like I said, I don't like that. But I just feel like sometimes when he played Minaur and Minaur beat him, I mean, one guy was working harder, more engaged, wanted it more fire, more tenacity, more fight. You can't let that happen. Also, is Kyrgios just done, you think? I don't really know how much about what goes on behind the scenes with him, but from what I see, he mentally just doesn't have what it takes to take the next step up. Maybe he's just one of those guys that people should stop talking about until he does something special. Well, I don't think we should stop talking. Well, yeah, I don't think we should stop talking about him because he's got the talent to win majors. The latest with Nick Kyrgios is he's getting some professional help with his mental game, which is what he needs. And the mind is just like the body in the fact where, sometimes there are issues and you need professionals to fix those issues. So I was happy to see that. We'll see if it works, if it doesn't work. But certainly the mind holds him back. The body holds him back too, by the way, which is not to be understated. I mean, the guy hasn't stayed healthy. He's always seemingly injured. So that doesn't help at all either. But I'm glad to see this comment because for any of you who don't know, I want to update you that Nick Kyrgios has came out and said, I am getting professional help. I don't know, from a counselor, psychologist, therapist, sports psychologist. I'm not sure exactly, but I do know he is getting professional help, and it's the kind of help that he's been hesitant to seek in terms of coaching. So it's good to see that. He's still young. There's still plenty of time, and I hope this does help. Quickly on the ATP Tour Finals, I did say last week, I said I wasn't sure, but my early hunch is that maybe Cilic wins this. The court's playing a little slow, so I kind of changed my mind. I think for Anderson and Cilic, my thinking was that Cilic has played Djokovic close twice, in the best-of-3 set format at least. He's won 2 sets in 2 matches against Djokovic. I hope I'm not missing a meeting, but I'm thinking of Queens, and then I'm thinking of Paris. And I'm thinking Cilic might have a little bit extra motivation if they met in the Tour Finals, just because Djokovic secured #1 and he's accomplished so much, and he might be kind of thinking about the offseason already, whereas Cilic has kind of struggled recently and is starting to find his game at the very end and has kind of come so close against Djokovic a few times. So I was thinking maybe the motivation factor might be enough to kind of just bump Cilic over the edge, indoor hardcourt. And then also, I think that Djokovic's worst habit recently has been he's become a little bit passive at times, relying a little bit too much on his defense. And I think Cilic is the perfect guy who can kind of end up bullying Novak around the court. Unfortunately, oftentimes Djokovic's defense is so good that Cilic won't make enough balls where it won't matter, and Djokovic kind of would still win. Unfortunately for Cilic, that is. Not so unfortunate for Djokovic. But I think the court's playing a little bit too slow, and he did lose to Sasha Zverev. And if you look at those tie breaks, just to kind of lament and go back to a point that I already made earlier, what was the difference in those tie breaks? Cilic missed, Sasha didn't. Why is Sasha good? Doesn't miss. And Cilic misses too much a lot of the time, especially under pressure. So I'm kind of back on thinking that Djokovic will win, and that's my pick. And for Federer, who just lost to Nishikori and played a really, really bad match, I almost feel like he's going to lose to Dominic Thiem, and it could be an ugly end to the season. That's just kind of my hunch with Federer, and I've said it time and time again. I think he needs the offseason. That's the show. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you next time. Make sure to rate and review on iTunes if you haven't done already.